What is up, NFL fans? It is time for another episode of For Your Viewing Pleasure. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman, as we get you ready to turn the page from Week 7 to Week 8 and get a look ahead of the upcoming slate of games, games to watch, sneaky good matchups, all that right here on this podcast. Wesley, how's it going?
It's going good. I think we're starting to see some good football for some certain teams. Some injuries to some leaders, but also, what we've got the Commanders. I guess the Steelers are tied, but Commanders, Steelers, and Seahawks in first place, just like everybody predicted would be happening by this time in the season. So it's it's going just like we thought.
There have been games every single week, and I've said this every single week, that we have said like are duds, and they turn out to be pretty decent games.
Yeah.
There have been games that we've said are duds, and they actually do become duds, and they're not worth watching. But still, that's what we do on this show: is we take a look at multiple categories. But before we do that, I always try to let everyone know what the upcoming slate of primetime games are this week. There is no overseas game. That doesn't happen again until they go, I think, to Frankfurt in November. So we have Thursday night football, Minnesota Vikings and the LA Rams. Then we go to Sunday night football. And Sunday night football, we have the Cowboys going to the 49ers, and the Cowboys coming off of their bye week, 49ers coming off of a really weird loss. And then Monday night football, yikes. The Giants at the Steelers is the Monday night game of the week. There's only one Monday night game of the week. So, all right. Well, quick thoughts on the primetime slate, Wesley.
Well, I mean, I think there's going to be some intrigue with the Cowboys 49ers, even though they're maybe shells of how we would have expected this to be. But just off of, fan bases alone, there's going to be some interest there. And, this there's a I don't know if it's not a primetime game, but there's a couple other games that I think would have been flexed if CBS should have been, could have been. There's a few different things there, and maybe we do have to work on some stuff in the future with way games can be flexed. So because I think there's going to be some people unable to watch games that are certainly intriguing this week.
Absolutely. And the way things are protected by organizations like CBS or like Fox, they can say like, hey, you can't flex this game. And so maybe we'll go over those rules as we get into the flex season, where games really do get flexed more as these games start to flex. Yep. It is coming. So, all right. I think Vikings Rams is a good game. We'll talk about that, but let's talk about must-see television. This can be more than one game, but a game that you see on this docket and you're like, man, that is a game. Appointment viewing, as we call it. What's a must-see game for you?
Man, the Bears and Commanders just sticks out as I'm excited about that game. I want to see it. Want to see Caleb Williams is starting to come around. The Jaden Daniels injury kind of, sours that a little bit. Like, I hate that. Commanders putting 40 points on the hapless Panthers is crazy without Jaden Daniels basically playing. But I think Jaden Daniels is going to play. He's a tough kid. He's dealt with some being knocked around before. And I think that everybody is interested in this now, maybe even more than we thought we would have been at the start of the season. But yeah, Bears Commanders.
Show me someone that said, like, if they were looking at the entire slate of NFL games and they said, I cannot wait till this week 8 matchup, Chicago Bears in Washington to play the Commanders. They're going to be a 4-2 and a 5-2 team, and I will show you a bold-faced liar. No one predicted this to be a must-see game, but I agree with you. There is a lot of intrigue in this game. These two rookie quarterbacks. The worst case scenario is that Jaden Daniels can't play. Like, the worst case scenario is that he is out, because I get it. And if they hold him out, I understand why. He is your offense. He is the main cog of that offense. You don't want to have a long-term injury. And so what are you hearing? Have you heard anything from Dan Quinn about his injury?
No, I haven't. Dan and I normally talk on Thursdays, so I won't know anything until later in the week.
You pay attention to him because he's an LSU guy. I didn't know if you had heard anything about his injury. That's the only reason I said it that way.
No, I mean, they're just saying ribs. Obviously, it's early. He's going to be checked out. His mom tweeted that he was fine.
Are you being honest right now?
I'm not kidding. His mom, like before halftime, he had gone for X-rays for 25 minutes, and before anything had been released by the team, his mom tweeted he's fine. Not a joke.
Welcome to 2024 when mom's Twitter account is breaking news.
I just want to make a comment. So obviously, I definitely want to see Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. This is a huge game. It's really important. I just want to commend the Commanders super smart by them to get a backup quarterback that plays just like their starting quarterback. Maybe not, but Marcus, you watch the two of them coming out of college, they have such the same tape. Marcus Mariota, who obviously isn't going to reach the heights that Jaden Daniels has reached this early in his career, but they didn't have to change their system at all. They didn't have to change plays. They can still call the same running plays, the same rollouts, all that. Super, super smart, because I think we've got a lot of dumb teams in the NFL that have their top two quarterbacks are completely different, and you have to, maybe mid-game completely change your offense, and that's just not reasonable.
Yeah, I think it's fair, but if Mariota is a quarterback, it's just not going to have the same juice.
No. I don't want to see that, but I
Yeah,
just want to
but you're
compliment
right
them.
though. But you're absolutely right. I'm going to go with another game that I think, for maybe reasons that a lot of people wouldn't think, and again, homerish here with the division in the AFC North. Eagles at Bengals is interesting to me. It's interesting because Cincinnati's coming off of a win against Cleveland. They're now 3-4. The Philadelphia Eagles come off their bye and they blow the doors off the Giants. And so everything seems to be all well and good in Philadelphia land. And Cincinnati fans are starting to see them. Okay, they're going to bounce back. This is what they always do, right? They start off slow and then they dig themselves out of the hole. It's going to be a tough game, even though they're at home. They haven't played great at home this season. And I think the Eagles and the Bengals, we talk about what the narratives are going to be after games. This is a game where the narratives could be drastically different. If the Eagles win, fantastic, 5-2, they're going to be right in the thick of the NFC East no matter what. The Bengals lose this game and fall to 3-5, and that's going to be really, really tough with the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens both sitting at 5-2 entering Week 8. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, the Bengals can't lose this game. I think that where they're at in the season, how they started so terribly. They've still got some things to figure out offensively. This past week, they weren't necessarily great. Burrow's putting up good numbers, but it's like outside of him and Chase and Higgins, there's just not everything's flowing. Having said that, the Bengals surprisingly maybe have a defense. They've definitely been good against the run, and that's what's going to be the key in this game against the Eagles. So, Saquon Barkley coming off what could have been the best game of his career, he decided to sit out the fourth quarter instead of breaking his game record. So pretty interesting matchup at the right time, and we'll see if this Bengals defense is real. Like they've looked good, they've had good stats against really bad teams. Let's see if the Bengals have actually improved.
Yeah, and what I'm realizing is that the Eagles' offense hinges on A.J. Brown. When he's not in the lineup, it's not the same. It doesn't flow the same. Devontae Smith is not the same. Jalen Hurts is not the same. If he's healthy, they're going to be really tough to beat, and he's going to be in the lineup. Any other games pique your interest as a must-see television watching experience?
Well, we threw out some primetime games. I just like, and I've really enjoyed this year pointing out games where maybe the loser is the big story.
Yeah, but absolutely.
The 49ers and Cowboys, like it's halfway through the season now. The loser of this game may not be able to make the playoffs.
That's crazy. But it's true.
Like, this is, maybe a game that early in the year, this is for maybe the number one seed at this point. Like, hey, early NFC championship game match. Not that the Cowboys win playoff games, but going into the playoffs, who would be the number one seed? Like, that's what this would look like. And now they're both teams are reeling. The Cowboys, the Micah Parsons injury is real, but they just look like a dysfunctional mess. The 49ers dealing with a lot of injuries, and Brock Purdy looking like a guy who's not an MVP candidate. There's some interesting stuff here, and there's like a route to both of them being I guess the Cowboys can't, but both of them being a half a game out of last place in their division. Whoever loses this game, is definitely in third place in their division. The Cardinals are not going to lose to the Dolphins this week, so San Francisco really doesn't even have a route to being out of third place, but they could. It looks messy for one of these teams. Maybe both, but the loser's in trouble.
The 49ers lose Brandon Ayuk for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. Deebo Samuel's, I don't even know what his injury is, but he's He was on the show. I don't think he played last week. Christian McCaffrey, I don't know if he's going to be returning this week or not, but they're banged up. And Brock Purdy, while I think he's a good quarterback, is kind of showing that. And people hate to say this, it's a system. Kyle Shanahan runs a system, and Brock Purdy can operate that system, but he has to have the weapons available to run it. And so without Christian McCaffrey and the Cowboys coming off a bye week, I know the early line is San Francisco -4.5 in this game because they are the home team. I would be tempted to take the Cowboys and the points in this one.
Maybe. My counterpoint is that honestly, with this one, the 49ers having all their receivers hurt may help them because that means they're going to have to run the ball, and the Cowboys just can't stop the run.
That's
So
fair.
I think if the 49ers were healthy, they could actually screw it up by trying to throw the ball too much. I mean, outside of George Kittle, you got nobody to throw to. So I think San Francisco is going to hand the ball off a whole lot, and I mean they could set a personal 49ers record for rushing the ball. The Cowboys can't stop the run. So either way, I'm not sure if I believe in even the winner of it. I don't know if I believe in them.
So I'm going to go one more game that I would say is going to be a game that you're going to want to keep your eyes on because, again, two teams with winning records. One team is vying for the top spot in their division, and that's the Buffalo Bills and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, last week we talked about how Amari Cooper got traded to Buffalo. He scores a touchdown in his first game. After seeing the dumpster fire that is the Cleveland Browns, he has to be just feeling like he's the happiest man on planet Earth, or at least in the NFL. And this game is in Seattle, and this game is going to have some importance. I think the Buffalo Bills have a stranglehold on the AFC East with the Jets floundering. The Dolphins don't have a quarterback. It just seems like they're the only team vying. The Patriots are no good. This is a game that's going to be interesting because we kind of wrote the Seahawks off for dead after they started 3-0, lose 3, but they lose 3 straight, but then they bounce back. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, it's a good matchup. I think it's weird that Buffalo's favored by 3. That kind of just sits weird because Seattle is at home.
That is weird. It's 4:05 game.
I think Seattle, I said this last week, I think Seattle's got an incredible team that they've built, and I think they're calling the wrong offense for that team. Geno Smith, again, I talked about this last week, he's thrown the ball over 40 times in 4 of their games this year, and that's just not I don't think sustainable for him. Now, this past week, they dominated the Falcons. He only threw the ball 28 times. Maybe the Falcons are bad, but maybe that's just a better offense for them. And so I think that, Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet need to get lots of carries and get the ball in their hands. I think it's a game that Seattle can win, but it's definitely an interesting one. And Buffalo is basically being handed their division by the Dolphins, Jets, and Patriots being inept. Buffalo needs to stay healthy and win the games they can. But Seattle needs to be definitely inspired to win with those struggles the 49ers are having.
All right, so let's talk about our next category, the fantasy lineup games. These are games that might not be attractive from like an overarching look at this game, must-see television type football game, but for fantasy purposes, there might be some value here. What games are you looking at in this regard?
So go back to kind of for both different reasons. But Cardinals and Dolphins, we hear that Tua may be coming back. So I don't think that even with all this crazy struggles, people probably were not dropping Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. I could have understand if you thought that Tua was done. But those are guys that have probably been stashed on your bench, not started for a while, and that you're at least going to think about, can you play them now? Again, on the Cardinals, Trey McBride's been a great tight end. Kyler Murray with his legs puts up numbers that are good for fantasy, even if you're not a big fan of him. And then Marvin Harrison Jr. Is having a very decent season for a rookie. So there's at least 6 guys in there. And then that's not even talking about the Miami running backs and James Conner. So I guess 8 guys in there that legitimately should be playing in your fantasy lineup. That is interesting. I just want to add to, I think it's crazy. Tua came out and said he will not wear the Guardian helmet. And I'm just baffled by anybody that will allow him to play football without the Guardian helmet. Just some way. It looks stupid. I agree. But my goodness, the guy's beyond football career. He's really walking a scary line.
I get it, but I also understand that it's his life. And so, like, hey, if he's a grown ass man. Like, you know what the risks are, you know all that stuff, man. If you choose not to wear it, like that's it's on you.
So to
And so
paraphrase, you're saying his body, his choice.
anyway, so other games. I'm gonna go fantasy wise. Let's look at the Thursday night game, right? Not known for its offensive output, but you have Minnesota Vikings, Justin Jefferson, who already has 5 touchdowns and 530 yards this year. He's going to be a must start. And then you look at the Rams side of things, and I look at the Rams, and okay, they're coming off a game where they beat the Raiders. They didn't have a huge offensive output, but I still feel like the Rams are a team that you're going to have some type of, okay, let's get some offense out of our fantasy lineup, right? So Cooper Kupp, is he back yet, or is he still on the shelf?
Well, I mean, he was like up until like the day before the game this last week, they thought he was going to play. We're very much assuming that Cooper Kupp will be playing this week. So I think that will be a big one for them.
Matthew Stafford needs him back. That's for sure. And Puka Nacua is still a couple weeks away from returning. But that might be a game that you could say, all right, let's look at that Thursday night game for fantasy options. What else do you have there?
Wait, on who to play on the Thursday night?
Oh, any game fantasy wise.
Oh, you know, the Bears Commanders, again, we kind of went around it, but I think there's some fantasy implications obviously there with both games. There's a lot of names that the Bears have, and the Commanders have been putting up numbers with Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the one-sided matchup for my last fantasy game.
I was avoiding one side because I'm like trying to find a player on both
it can
teams.
be one-sided. No, it can be one-sided. So I'm going to say, if you have New York Jets against the Patriots, I would start some of those players. I watched the Jets on Sunday Night Football against Pittsburgh. They have a really good plethora of weapons, whether it's Breece Hall out of the backfield, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Lazard is still there. And the only downfall is that there's so many weapons from a fantasy production. And well, the downfall could be Aaron Rodgers himself.
It could be Aaron Rodgers not being able to play football.
But no, I mean, he made some good throws in the second half, just unraveled for the Jets in that game against the Steelers. But if you're looking at, okay, what's a positive matchup? The Patriots are not a good football team at 1-6. They need a get right game. This has the makings of being a get right game, even though it's in New England. I'm just saying, if I were looking at fantasies, I would potentially look at like a Devontae Adams as a wide receiver. Garrett Wilson's getting a lot of good matchups as seeing the second best cornerback. I don't know. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Jets are a dumpster fire. They might be really headed in the wrong direction.
They need this get right game. That's what I'm saying.
They need it, but like they're going to be everybody else's get right game is what it looks like. Also, too, if we're just talking about a one-sided matchup.
Yeah.
The Broncos defense may set an all-time record for defensive points in a fantasy matchup this week. They're playing the Panthers. Patrick Surtain may be back. He's questionable to return, but that's a great defense, and they're fixing to play an inept offense. So it'd be definitely a must start.
Another thing you could look at if you're looking at one-sided, Steelers defense going up against the Giants on Monday Night Football would be a really good start for your fantasy lineup because they're probably going to harass whoever's a quarterback. They say it's going to be Daniel Jones. But yeah, that might be a good option for you.
Yeah, you better hope that Tommy DeVito doesn't get the start. You'll be in trouble.
Okay, let's go to sneaky good matchups. Is there any game that's not getting a lot of attention and probably won't get a lot of attention this week that you're thinking could actually be a pretty good game?
I mean, so the Colts and the Texans, the Colts have looked weird and there's all kinds of stuff going on, and Anthony Richardson hasn't been great, but they're 4-3. I mean, they are a team with a winning record. It's them or the Texans is going to win the AFC South. This is a game that just gets chippy enough the right way. One play goes a different way, and the Colts win this, and you come out of this game midway through the season with the Colts in first place and the Texans and trailing them in second. I just think, and I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Colts. I don't know if Anthony Richardson is going to be playing or if he's hurt or getting benched or taking another break. And if the Colts start Flacco, this becomes a pretty interesting game. And I don't know where the Colts are with. I get it. They got to develop Anthony Richardson. But you and I were talking about this during the games. The Colts have a team that if they start Flacco, like they can scare a lot of people. Like
Absolutely.
he plays just good enough and does enough stuff with their weapons. And I don't know. At some point in the year, the Colts have got to decide, like, are we trying to win this division, or are we trying to continue developing Anthony Richardson, and maybe we develop him next year while we finish first place in the division this year. So there's, again, two winning teams playing this late in the season. It needs to be interesting. We shouldn't just ignore it.
Yeah, so I'm my game and Anthony Richardson, I just don't think he's it. Like, I'm
I
sorry, like
agree.
the dude's super inexperienced. He doesn't have a lot of, even going back to high school, like he hasn't had a lot of experience under center. I think he was overdrafted. I don't think he's accurate enough. But that's just my opinion. I'm going to ask you for a sneaky good matchup, and your take is, this is NFC South here. Both of these teams are 4-3, but there is something about this matchup that I'm tempted to put it into the dud of the week. Falcons Buccaneers. Like, it's in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's coming off a Monday night loss to the Baltimore Ravens. They lost two receivers in this game, and Mike Evans and, oh, come on, help
Chris
me out here with
Godwin.
the Chris Godwin. Thank you. Baker Mayfield didn't look very good in the second half of the game. In Atlanta, they're coming off of a loss where Kirk Cousins didn't look great. Is this a sneaky good matchup? These are two 4-3 teams in the same. This is a divisional game. What is your take on this? Because I can't. I'm trying to convince myself that this would be a game to watch, but I just can't right now.
Yeah, it is a sneaky good matchup for the fact that, because if it was these two teams in separate divisions having these issues, I don't think it would be worth watching. But these two teams are going to get hyped for this game. They play each other a lot. There's going to be some competitive and extra fire. There's always is between the teams in the NFC South, or even in most divisions when they play each other. I think that they will end up scoring points because Tampa can run the ball, but losing Godwin and Evans is huge. And I mean, Evans with a hamstring injury, he's a big, tall receiver. This could be a drawn out hamstring injury for him.
Absolutely.
This doesn't surprise me if we're talking about a 6-week one versus a 3 or 4 week one. And then you just never know after that. Huge deal for them. And again, Kirk Cousins has not looked good this year. It's weird that both of them have winning records. They both had super easy schedules. I mean, the winner of it kind of looks like they're running away with the division probably, but I don't think either one is going to scare anybody in the hosting a playoff game.
Yeah, I don't either. So, all right, do you have any other sneaky good matchups, or do you want to go to could only watch one?
Let's go to only watch one.
All right, which one? I think I know where you're going to go with this, but
Yeah,
go
I mean,
ahead.
I'm not going to forsake everything I said. I started off with, I mean, the Bears and Commanders is super exciting. The number 1 and number 2 overall picks. Caleb Williams started a little slow, but he's been the projected number 1 pick for multiple years now. Jaden Daniels came out of crazy last year to go up to number 2 when he was expected to be a 4th or 5th round pick to start last college football season. The two of them matched up against each other, of teams that are, quite possibly going to win their divisions or be competing for winning their divisions later in the year. Super exciting. Jeff, just in case Jaden Daniels can't play, what's your backup for your just can only watch one?
I got to go. There's something about Cowboys 49ers that is like an iconic game. It's the two teams. You talk about NFC matchups, like everyone brings up Cowboys 49ers. There's a lot of history there. I'd probably go with that one. If that's too obvious, I don't know. There's just not a lot of those type of matchups in this game. I feel like the next category is where we could really go off duds of the week. I'm using the plural duds because I think there's multiple. You already brought up one, and that would be the Carolina Panthers and the Broncos as a potential dud. What else are you looking at and saying this game just looks like it's going to be awful?
I mean, the Broncos Panthers. Like I don't want to watch Andy Dalton face off against Bo Nix.
No.
That's not interesting at all. I guess that's maybe better than Bryce Young versus Bo Nix. Maybe. I mean, and I'm the Broncos defense. I said definitely to start them. They're going to score points and all, but I also think there could be a million punts in this game. It just could be super, super ugly. I did want to say just one of the things you said. I mean, I'm at that age in my mid 40s where the Super Bowls of 49ers versus Cowboys and all the jumping back and forth of players like Deion Sanders and Ken Norton and Charles Haley and all, it's ingrained in some of us. And most people, I guess at this point, you hate one of those two teams, if not both of them. it's still interesting and it's still nostalgic, and it's not going to look like those Super Bowls this week, but it's still it being on the schedule is like at least makes you turn your head and look at it.
For sure. Some classic NFC championship games there. All right. I'm going to go dud of the week. Oh, so many options. So many options. Ah, I'll go with my first one. I've got more than one. I'm going to say Ravens at Browns is a dud of the week because I don't know who the Browns are going to start. Maybe it's Jameis Winston. Maybe it's Dorian Thompson Robinson. Either way, I think this game, Dorian Thompson Robinson was you're looking at me funny. He was the backup quarterback.
My dude
Jameis
Jameis is
Winston,
getting that start.
huh?
My man Jameis Winston is getting that start.
He should get that start, but why in the hell wasn't he the backup quarterback last week?
Maybe because of the narrative of Deshaun playing so bad, they didn't want a good option sitting right there to get the fans riled up.
Okay.
I mean,
I
I honestly think there's some games that have we don't even want the clamoring for Jameis to come in.
Okay.
He's not even active unless there's 2 injuries. I wouldn't put it past them.
Okay. So this is my first dud of the week because I think the Ravens are just going to blow the Browns doors off. I think the Browns are a dumpster fire of all dumpster fires this year. And so that's my first dud. Do you have any other duds of the week?
Well, yeah, I mean the Titans and Lions should be incredibly terrible.
Yes.
Are we back to Will Levis now? Or is there maybe a former Steeler quarterback starting? I don't know.
Mace.
I just can't imagine that's good. And the Lions, I think, did a good job of proving that they weren't going to have like the come down game after a big win. They proved that after beating the Cowboys and still playing great this past week. Dan Campbell doesn't seem like a coach that's going to allow that to happen, but he's proven it. I think this could be a really ugly one. Also, Dan Campbell's proven that even though he's winning big, he's going to keep trying to score. He did that against the Cowboys, and I think I could definitely see him putting a lot of points on the Titans.
Yes. I also think Chiefs Raiders is just not watchable for me. I mean, unless you're a fan of these, it's a division rivalry, but Aiden O'Connell supposedly, I think he broke his thumb or something. He's probably not going to be able to play. Gardner Minshew is a turnover machine. The Chiefs defense is going to hold the Raiders to like 3 points probably in this entire game, maybe 10 at the most. And the Chiefs are 6-0 and their offense isn't really doing much. I don't know. There's not much appealing about this game to me.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you heard, but the Raiders did sign Desmond Ridder off the Cardinals practice squad. I mean, they do have options behind Gardner Minshew.
But do they?
The only thing I'll say is that I just Max Crosby is a great equalizer of I just don't and that's the kind of problem where he has given the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes problems just single-handedly. I don't think the Raiders can win. I just don't know if it gets out of hand too much because of some of the pass rush and what the Raiders can do. And Patrick Mahomes hasn't been Patrick Mahomes-ish all year. So I don't think it's going to be competitive, but I also think it's going to be a crazy blowout.
Is Saints Chargers a dud?
So, I mean, if you want to talk about that, the Saints are going to start Spencer Rattler again. It looks like Derek Carr is going to need at least another week, but you've got 2 offensive linemen coming back, Lucas Patrick and Cesar Ruiz coming back, Taysom Hill coming back, Chris Olave coming back, Pete Werner, the linebacker, coming back. The Saints, let's just not forget, when healthy, after 2 weeks, were the darling of the NFL and the best offense in NFL history. Now, they've played terrible since then, but they've also dealt with the most ridiculous amount of injuries that I've ever heard of. They've got 22 out of their 22 week 1 starters, 45% of them are out as of the last game.
Yeah.
At the end of our last game. So we'll see. I mean, I think that this game's going to be the Chargers also are not good, so that's makes it more competitive. It's going to be a low scoring game though, but Taysom Hill and some offensive linemen coming back makes it at least watchable.
All right, very good. Any other duds for you?
No, sir.
All right, perfect. All right, this is great. Week 8 should be up and down. It's going to be a lot of fun to view some of these games, and we'll be back next week for sure to wrap up Week 8. I'll talk a little bit about it and get you all ready for Week 9. But Wesley, where can they find you on social media and your New Orleans Saints coverage?
You can find me at WhoDatWesley13 on X. You can also interact with the Dome Patrol podcast on at Dome Patrol PCast. How about you, Jeff? Where can we find you?
You can find my Steelers coverage at the Steel Curtain Network, wherever you get your podcast. Just search Steel Curtain Network. You can find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN _PIT. But that's it. Wesley, thanks for your time, man. We'll talk next week.
Yes, sir. See you then.